Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. Right, so in this video we're going to look at chapter 1 number system and 1.1 real numbers. Alright, so just 1.1, which is a very easy subtopic. Okay, so you can read the learning outcomes here. Define natural numbers, whole numbers, integers, prime numbers, rational numbers, and irrational numbers. Alright, represent rational and irrational numbers in decimal form. Uh, Represent the relationship of number sets in the real number system diagrammatically. Represent open, closed, and half open intervals and the representations on the number line. Find union and intersection of two or more intervals with the aid of number line. Right. So basically, in 1.1, what you are going to learn is the definition of these types of numbers. Okay, as you can see here. You're going to have to know what rational and irrational numbers are. You're going to have to know how to represent number sets. All right, what open, close, and half open intervals are, and lastly, what union or intersection are. Okay, and you have to know how to use them using a number line lah. Right. So firstly, we define what these numbers are. So prime numbers, as you can see here, the definition is natural numbers that is only divisible by itself and 1. Right, so prime numbers, for example, 2, 3, 5, and 7. Okay. Natural numbers are basically counting numbers lah, positive integers. We can also call them positive integers, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6. Okay, not including 0, basically positive numbers. Right, so whole numbers, natural numbers including 0. Okay, so basically natural numbers, but we include 0, that is whole numbers. Okay, this is the symbol P. Actually, the symbol should be like this. So for P, okay, so the symbol for P should be like this when you write it down. Okay, there's a line beside the P lah, basically. Right, so basically, for example, 2, 3, 5, and 7. So the next number should be 11, prime numbers. Okay, so let's say lah, we take 9 for example. 9 is not a prime number because it is divisible by 3. Okay, so 9 is not a prime number. Cancel that. Alright, and then we have natural numbers. So basically, natural numbers are counting numbers lah. Okay, the numbers you use to count. So you start from 1 because you count using your fingers, and you can start only by 1 lah. Tak boleh start dengan kosong kan? Because you're counting. Okay, and then whole numbers, we've looked at definition of numbers. We just include 0 from the natural numbers. Okay, symbol. So symbol for natural numbers is the same as P. There's a line under that. Okay, and then for whole numbers, you can just write it as W lah. For whole numbers, you don't have to do the double strike effect. Sometimes you would find symbols like this again, just to differentiate between whole numbers and the letter W. Okay, but you can just write it as W for all numbers. Right, so the symbol for all numbers, W. And then integers. Okay, so starting from integers, I have to focus a bit because these are commonly asked in the exam lah. Okay, so integers, the symbol for integers is Z. Okay, as you can see, you can write down Z first, and then you just run a line down the middle part like this. Okay, so that's an integer, symbol for integer. So the definition is just natural numbers, then negative and 0. Okay, so basically negative numbers, negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, and then 0, and natural numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sampai infinity, all the way up to infinity. Okay, so basically it starts from negative infinity until infinity lah. Okay, but we don't write it out like that because it doesn't include fractions. Okay, only whole numbers and negative numbers lah. Alright, so that's integers. And then we have rational numbers. So rational numbers is basically just a fraction in a simple term. So definition is any number that can be written as a ratio or fraction, okay, of two integers is a rational number. So basically you can represent a number as a ratio lah. So that is a rational number. Okay, so the symbol is Q. So you write it as Q, and then you just run a straight line here. Okay, so that's a rational number. So is 0 a rational number? Okay, to answer that question, we're going to use the definition, right? So rational numbers, okay, according to the definition we just read it, rational numbers can be represented as a ratio of two integers. So can 0 be represented as a ratio between two integers? Basically, yes. Okay, 0 over 2 is 0. 0 over 1 is 0. So 0 is, therefore 0 is a rational number. Okay, so we're going to use a definition lah. That's why definition is important in maths. Okay, so the other common examples are negative 3 over 4, 9 over 10. So basically, you can represent them as a fraction lah. So 3.64 is a rational number because rational number can also be expressed as terminating. So terminating means this decimal stops, okay, or repeating decimal such as negative 0.33333. So as you can see here, the symbol here, there's a bar above 3. So that is the symbol for repeating numbers lah. So 0.3 bar is the same as 0.33333 and so on. Okay, so this is the same as 1 over 3. So it is a rational number, a fraction, right? And then we move on to irrational numbers. So irrational numbers, the symbols still Q, but we put a apostrophe, okay, above the Q. So that the apostrophe represents the set that is not Q. So not rational is irrational. Okay, so irrational numbers are numbers that can be represented as non-repeating and non-terminating decimal numbers. So basically, non-fractions. Okay, so non-fractions such as set2. Okay, so you press the calculator. Set2 is equals to. Okay, let me pull up my calculator here. Okay, so if you press set2 on the calculator, you can see that the number is 1.414213562. Okay, it stops there, but actually it doesn't stop there. It is a non-repeating decimal. Okay, non-repeating decimal. So it means if the number doesn't repeat, okay, it means that the number continues up until infinity lah. Okay, so that means that it is an irrational number. Contoh tadi 0.333, but it stops kan, dia berhenti. So it is rational. Ataupun 0.33333, but the number repeats kan, 33333. So that is a rational number. So for irrational numbers, the number must be non-repeating and non-terminating. It doesn't stop halfway. It doesn't repeat itself. Contohnya pi, if you press this on the calculator, you can see that numbers doesn't repeat and doesn't stop. Ataupun 7.156324. Okay, in other words, irrational numbers are not, i.e., not fractions. Okay, so for example, 0.123, is it a rational number or is it an irrational number? It is a rational number because it repeats 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Although it doesn't stop, okay, it doesn't terminate, but since the numbers are repeating 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, this means that this is a rational number, or you can just write as Q, rational number. Okay, a rational number can be expressed as terminating or repeating decimal. Alright, so that's the main difference lah, rational and irrational numbers. Okay, and lastly we have real numbers. Okay, so the symbol for real numbers is R, so you can write it like this. Ada palang je lah sebelah tu. Just have a straight line beside the R. Okay, so that's real numbers. So real numbers is basically every number lah. Real rational numbers and irrational numbers. Okay, basically every number that you can think of, real numbers. So everything is under real numbers.